Mbula Vinaka, everyone. Vakalevu for joining in this beautiful Sunday evening. It's 11 minutes past 8. Sa uchungona walo natin kandona miniti. Wambul chukani wikim ni sara na bewa kani na bewa sebiti na bewa seburubura na kwalevu na nomnindo toko na chukumai na program mungo na Talanoa titi Talanoa chukana nonda Talanoa takasana urutanga bimbi may bira na wekanda ratakabati ko libo na nonra tambani ni nakataka so da maro taksar na kabinani kuwa ni siya machuk may bat kikenda o Meli Tuqota sa may boso to ko na nang kuy batabate na bagsaoti kwendo ni yaloyalo ya vala na kay pamadal takchuko ko na nona daka weekend na kabinani kuwa may bakanga kini bala me na do mandana da sermento laban na da Talanoa na kabina Kongo kito si Singapore witi Kongo Hawaii na kito na ambita manan ko na sere do talita ka vakalevu na sere membaliti viti wasi bikim na tuya wayani bungo bikim din sa dorong ato wasamana nungko bata-bata na sere na wanua domani nimbula Vinaka. Sa rong binakanti na sero ya kladi le weekend and tikani balangi tanto tali takabakalevu na sema ibiti na bukni sere Totoka na talendi tu mai biti talendi ni bola sere talendi ni langa sere ia na kabini kuwa da maro sara ni sema tikumingo nanonda dorobo kilele na buturara ni retio yaloyalo sena dakambeka ni yaloyalo yavala o Meli Tuqota. Meta na baka mbulu sarwa sema tiko koe mena korturanga Suva mbulu Vinaka Meli.
Mbulu Vinaka, Dr. T. Just want to say that was a really great intro. I feel very inspired now to run onto the rugby field. Run on the rugby field for Fiji.
I can picture you running on that field, Meli.
I'm gonna run straight to the water.
Vinaka. Thank you so much for joining in today. Because I know the last time we spoke was the Talanoa of your Solimbula film. Maybe before we talk about our project and the ones you've been working on, kila lili wirangwar na vinakata merakila na nung matabubale na bunoy ko susumikina. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself to our listeners, Meli. Vinaka.
Sure. Mbulu Vinaka, everyone. I'm Meli Tuqota. My father's from Nagasauva, Cauravou, and my mother's from Apai, Tonga. I was born in Suva, real Susumandai boy. In general, I'm a graphic designer, graphic artist, but recently I've made the switch to filmmaking. With the main goal to tell Fijian stories on film. And so far, I think it's been going okay, even though I just started recently. So.
Oh, Vinaka. Which school did you go to, Mel?
Shout out to all the gang who went to Suva Grammar School I went to. From 1 to Form 7, all the way through. Boo.
Yes, Vinaka vakalevu Suva Grammar School, because I know there's a lot of ex-scholars, students who've been to Suva Grammar have done so much in different fields of study. So nimbolo Vinaka bikim together na buluoti may no Suva Grammar School, wherever you're tuning in from. We're sending our Mbulu Vinaka and greeting to you all. Vinaka vakalevu. And what inspired you to move into maybe first to graphic design work, and then we'll go into your inspiration into filmmaking?
Oh, it's I know some people as soon as they're born, they're like, I know what I want to do. From the start, rather, Daddy, I want to be a lawyer, whatever. For me, I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to do. I thought of various things like maybe architecture or tech drawing or what else did I want to be? I thought I wanted to be a pilot for one day. When I finished school, then my parents are like, hey, what do you want to really be? And I was like, man, I don't know. So they put me in law school because my grandfather from my mom's side, he's a lawyer. So I said, oh, you got a big mouth, you go to law school. I tried that for one semester, and when I saw that there was no pictures in the textbooks, I ran away. And so my mom put me into business school. I'm very bad with money. I'm very terrible with numbers. So you can see a pattern here. I ran away again. And then, shout out to my mother. She's very patient with me. She said, one last try. We'll put you in graphic design school because you're always drawing on your exam papers instead of answering the questions. If this doesn't work out, we'll send you to the village. And so turns out graphic design was what I liked. And that became my career for quite a while until I think back in 2016 or 2015, I started to think about wanting to tell stories. I hadn't quite figured out the medium, but I was writing stuff just on drawing. And then I think it was 2019 when I realized I can do animation to tell stories. And so my very first animated short film, which was made in 2019, was called "You, the Choice of My Parents," and it was it was animation of that poem that a lot of us studied in high school by Professor Konai Helu. Yeah, and so I turned that poem into a short film, and then I also translated the English writings into Tongan. And so my mom translated into Tongan, then had the voiceover read it in Tongan. So it's a lot more, because Professor Konai Themen is Tongan, and also somewhat related to me. And so from that, making that short film, I got really like excited to want to tell more stories in this new medium. I'm saying new, but like, I love movies. I've been a big fan of watching movies for a while, but it's only just recently that I decided to try my hand at actually making films. And so after You're the Choice of My Parents, then the next step was to try a Fijian story. And that was where we put together the production Solimbula.
Wow, so and 2 weeks ago, Meli, we were here with Konai Helu Themen here in Hawaii with the husband, Professor Randy Themen. So we were really moved by, her the power that she has with words. And I was emceeing an Indigenous sustainability conference here, and she was one of the keynote speakers. And it was so beautiful when she was presenting her keynote. She added 4 poems in between, within her speech. And man, we were so spoiled. Maybe that's a word I would say, to be in her presence and for her to address issues that are so personal to her, but she used poetry, in response to how she felt about, indigenous knowledge and sustainability. So yeah, Vinaka for, using, yes, go for it.
Speaking of indigenous knowledge, actually, it's a fun fact. I actually didn't ask permission if I could animate her story, her poem. I actually just, what they say, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So I made the short film, then I took it to her and I showed it to her at her office. And thankfully, she was very happy with it. So I don't recommend it. I don't recommend making a whole film and then going ask for permission, because it's a very expensive endeavor. But for me, because it was just me and my cousin who helped with the recording, but primarily it was just me doing the animation and putting together the film. But when I showed it to her, she was very happy because it gave her poem, it's written a long time ago. It gave her poem a new life and to a new audience. Not just like people who read books. Now it's a video online where people can watch it whenever they want. And so you've got like the potential not only for like a worldwide audience, but also like the younger next generation sort of like stumbling across this thing. And now they get exposed to her poetry and Tongan culture. And so like she was very happy that not only was it given new life just by a new project, but on a new medium. And so she thanked me for that, and I gave her a poster as well, just to make sure that everything was okay.
Yes,
So that was a
wow.
really good. It turned out okay. So really thankful for that.
And is that film or that animation you made, is it available to schools, or
Well,
how
it's
how
online,
can people access it? Is it online?
so you can just Google "You the Choice of My Parents" short film, and then it should be there. Or you can visit my website. It's on my website, tungota.com, tuqota.com. And I've put it there, especially, I know it's got all the write-ups and everything as well, additional
Oh,
information. But yeah, definitely
beautiful.
online and available for free for anyone to watch.
Oh, that's really wonderful. And I can see those of you who are listening in Nimbula Vinaka, William Fong Vinaka, Emma Trail, who else is here? Is Asinatira Sovo, Litia Korosaya, Eleanor Bukivi. We have an amazing list of um, our brothers and sisters from Fiji and around the world listening in. And I think one of the other points I was going to ask you was, you had, you wanted to be a pilot, your family wanted to put you to law school, your mom put you to business school, and the only thing you wanted to do is to draw. So I can picture you must be one of the students that scribble or draw on the edges of your test
I had no
paper.
answers.
So you're one of those. There are parents who are listening in, some of their children may be like you don't want to do anything else but just to draw. What would you tell them, in regards to how to deal with children who are very artistic or just love to do things that maybe they wouldn't want them to do, like drawing or going into the arts?
For one thing, I will state for the record that here in Fiji, it's quite tricky to make being an artist an actual a viable career. It's quite tricky. Yeah? There isn't as much support for the artists as us artists would like. There is a growing movement, and you still got like those paintings that you can do and you sell. But like in general, other forms of art, it's a bit tricky. I'm not saying it's impossible, but so with parents, what I would advise is first of all, listen to your kids. You know, it'll only be a headache if you try and fight with them about choosing the career that you want for them, as opposed to what they want to do with their lives. There's a thing about with this current with the next generation Gen Z, they're very much all about the job fulfillment rather than the money. And so, especially when it comes to being creative, you want to do the job that you feel benefits your creative soul personally. And so, for me, I would say for the parents to just listen to their kids and try and help them as best you can to enable them to line them up for a way that they can both look after themselves financially, support themselves financially, but also more importantly, be in a position to satisfy that artistic urge that all creatives have.
Vinaka valeu Sarah Meli, because I think working in myself in the field of museums and the arts, there is kind of a common issue that a lot of artists feel themselves when they kind of wanting to follow their heart and follow their passion, but then the demand for it or the support is not there. So it's really wonderful that you're here tonight to share your projects with us, but also our parents who are listening in, and even young ones will be inspired, by your journey. That you can also, help up and coming, graphic designers and artists and filmmakers who may want to be like
Musicians.
you,
My my
musicians, the
my parents are
dancers.
music teachers, and so although they didn't quite understand for a bit at the beginning, once I fully slid into graphic design with ease, then they understood. Okay, this is it. This is what you're. Thank goodness, because they're getting tired of me running away from the other classes. But I'm glad that once I moved into graphic design and it became a career, they were fully supportive of my artistic endeavors, especially and when I made the switch to filmmaking, they were similar. They were a bit confused. They're like, "Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of in a position where I can, very careful, but I can. I think I can do this." And so it's been it's been a journey for both of us, my parents and I. But they've been definitely supportive over time, and now they're my biggest fans.
That's wonderful. Vinaka Sarah Meli. And I think, going back to what I was talking about when Konai was here, we were all talking about the importance of indigenous knowledge. And because a lot of our elders are passing away and they're passing away with their knowledge, I think filmmaking is a really good way to capture those stories and those wisdom. Vuku, what we call the vuku nibanua, wisdom of the land, to remain for our generation, and then our duty is to share it with the other upcoming generation. So perhaps if you want to talk a little bit about the Solimbula project that you came and talked about in the last Talanoa we had. How did it go, and where did you go as well? So how did
How
the
did
film
it
go,
go? Where'd
and
it
you
go?
also traveled too?
Yeah. So first of all, I think I was sort of leading up to the Kickstarter when we did our chat.
Yes.
And so after that, then we are actually successful with the Kickstarter. So small shout out to all the people who backed Solimbula. I was really happy that, I'll be honest, after we finished the fundraising, when I look back, I was like, man, that was scary. I don't know if I'll be able to do that again. Flash forward to 2 years, and here I'm in the same exact position. But the fact that we were able to do so much with the funds to create an animated short film telling a story about a Fiji that took, that's very different but also very same, and putting it in, in an animated short film and then putting it on screen. I think it has more than paid for itself, and the backing of the people who believed in the project. We've managed to make sure that their beliefs have been basically their faith in us has been good. And so because of that, we submitted the film to a few short film festivals around the world, and some it didn't get into, but some it did. And I was really happy that the film festivals that it got into were mostly the indigenous film festivals. And so one of the indigenous film festivals it got into was the largest indigenous film festival in the world, which is the Imaginative Film Festival in Toronto, Canada. And so I was really happy to see Solimbula screen with some other movies from New Zealand and from around the Pacific. So it was quite like, yeah, let's go squad. Let's gang all go together, kind of see all the Pacific stories being represented on screen. One of the gang from New Zealand actually sent me a picture of the screenings. So I saw the Solimbula with all these other New Zealand and other films from the Pacific. And for me, it made me so happy to see in terms of representation, it's very rare to see Fijians represented on the silver screen. And so to the knowledge that this film is going to an audience literally on the other side of the world, it really made me happy and proud of all the work that we've done. And so it screened there in Toronto, Canada, and it also screened amongst other film festivals that was chosen. It screened at a film festival in New Zealand, the largest indigenous film festival in the Southern Hemisphere, which is the Maori Land Film Festival. And that one, because New Zealand's close by, I managed to go and see the screening myself personally. And that was quite an experience because for me, it was my first film festival experience. And I'm really glad that it was my first film festival experience was a Pacific Film Festival. So it's really cool to be surrounded by other Pacific Island gang and not being one really foreign country, like maybe in Europe or America, but amongst other Pacific Island filmmakers. That's all in Bola, yeah. And so when the film screened, afterwards I was really proud of it. Afterward, when the film screened, some of the Maori gang came up to me and like, "Whoa, you Fijians are pretty hardcore, eh?" I was like, yeah, that's us Fijians. You see us on the rugby field, that's right. You should watch out. We were former cannibals. We all burst out laughing and whatnot. But not only was it inspiring for me personally to see it on screen, it was also inspiring for the other Pacific Islanders because for quite a while we haven't had film representation. And so I think there's been sort of a groundwell movement amongst other gang here in Fiji that are slowly starting to make their own film projects. And I'm really excited to see more projects and more films coming out from Fiji, from our corner of the Pacific.
Yes.
And so after Solimbula, I should give a mention to one more film festival that Solimbula got into. I was totally unprepared to be accepted into this film festival, but it was, sorry, let me just look for the name. It was an Indigenous American film festival. It was the Red Nation International Film Festival. So it was for specifically, it was the Indigenous Americans Film Festival. And I saw that and I was like, I looked at the laws, the submission rules. And I was like, oh, okay, there's no mention that all films have to be from America. They just said indigenous. I just try my luck. And I sent it and it got accepted. And so now not only has it screened at these indigenous film festivals, it's also screened at specific specific film festival, which is for the indigenous Americans. And so that was a real big deal to be amongst the films that they had. And so just the thought of our Fijian a Fijian story showing in these film festivals amongst others, it just gives me no end of joy to know that it's being shown to all these different audiences. Another interesting film festival it's shown at was all the way in Finland. Yeah, man, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. But it's Indigenous People Film Festival, and it's all the way in Finland, and they have movie screenings where they put their screen is a big giant block of ice. Wow. And they just shoot the movie onto the ice, and you just sit underneath the stars and the northern lights. And it's quite a viewing. And so, opposite, like I said, on the opposite end of the world, to know that Solimbula has gone all that way, it's mind blowing. but also like
Yes.
heartwarming and also inspiring. Like, we can get ourselves out there in the world. And the world is hungry for this kind of content, which is quite interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I think it was Mr. Sevendra who said like different countries have had their moment in the spotlight in terms of like where the stories come from. And he said now it's the Pacific's turn, Fiji's turn. I was like, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, speaking of the famous one and only Simone Sibundrendre, would you like to tell our audience as well, those who are in your team? But before you do that, I just want to comment on the artistic, the drawing that we're looking at. It just looks so amazing because you can see the nrua and also the silhouette of the gentleman on the left. And what inspired you just by looking at the color combination, the massive print, and this Fijian gentleman in the image, plus the nrua?
Well, the story is takes place in an alternate reality Fiji, yeah? And it depicts the event of the launch of a giant drua, but it takes place in the modern days. So the drua and the sacrifice, they feature heavily in the film. And shout out to Tui Lendua, was the artist who was responsible for drawing the characters on screen. And so, like, just to list out who was involved in the production. So I was the animator and director. Tui Lendua was the artist who drew all the people on the screen, and also he was the art director. So basically, he designed the overall look of the film. And then after that, it was Clarence Das who drew the backgrounds for the characters, as well as he supplied additional artwork. And then after Clarence, then Michael John Light, he was the one who created the Ndrua in 3D. And he went into really good detail, like to the point where, I was pretty amazed by how much detail we had for the 3D Ndrua. And we made sure we got it right. We had a call with Captain Setereki from the Ndrua Experience. We showed him the 3D model and we say, hey, what's this do? And the fellow say, that he gave us all the information. We made sure we made note of it and modeled it to the exact, specifications of what he was pointing out. Lysia Ndave was the one who was responsible for the sound effects, all the sound effects that happened in the film. Knox Kaloni Singer, he was the one who did the music. And I was really, he's based in Australia now, but I was really lucky to have him on the team because he does music for Survivor, the Fiji Survivor show. So yeah, I mean, getting someone of that pedigree was quite lucky for us. And so he made the music for the film, and it really showed like his expertise with crafting soundtracks. I just said, can I have this music kind of like this? And then he went, wait, did it came back? I just said, okay, just one small tweak, but otherwise it was basically done. So he was really good. He was really good. Who else was on the team? My wife, Vidin Lee, was also on the team. She did the color corrections. So like with the look of the video, there's, sometimes very orange, sometimes very pink. She would go in and make sure that, the colors matched and it looked, it looked like one piece of a film rather than like different, because all the elements were made differently and then given in there.
Together.
So yeah, so she had to make sure that everything looked the same. It's quite a process for the film.
And it's wonderful to see that, it's all done and like the concept and everything was done in Fiji, Meli?
All local gang, yeah, all of us.
Wow.
Local. So that's one aspect I'm really proud of, like the fact that all local gang, we can make one animated short film. Don't need
and you've taken it around the world.
And I've shown it around the world.
It around the world. Wow. Now, William Fong has a question for you in terms of you taking it to the different festivals. He said, is he the first Fijian filmmaker to have this film shown at these festivals? Have there any Fijian before you?
Okay. I do know Wilson Erenico with his film The Land Has Eyes. With
Right.
his film, that's technically the first Fijian film to be sort of like it's the first feature film from Fiji. And that was all the way back in 2003, somewhere around there. And it was the first Fijian film, feature film. After that, then I'm not sure about other films from Fiji.
Yeah.
It's a bit of I'm a bit unsure. I do know that there was a lot of overseas productions happening here in Fiji, but I don't know of local productions making films
Mm.
and showing them overseas. I do know, at least I think, I'm what I usually say is, I'll keep saying this until someone proves me wrong, but I believe that Solimbol is the first animated short film with a local crew from Fiji. I,
Ah,
I think that's because I haven't seen any other local productions.
yeah.
I forgot to mention, I can't believe I mentioned this. On the crew as well was Mr. Simeone Sevendrendre. He
Yeah.
was the cultural consultant. I save the best for last. But yeah,
Absolutely.
we put the crew together. We say, like, we want to do this. Then we say, okay, first check with Mr. Sevendrendre. And then he would
Mm.
sit down and, he can, and then, okay, do this and that. We used to do this and that in the cultural society. They used to be like this and that. And all of his advice shaped the final look of the film. So big
Mm.
shout out to Mr. Sevendrendre.
Vinaka vakalevu. So, Toranganita, Simone Sebundende, wherever you are, if you hear this Talanoa or this interview with Meli Tuqota, big credit to you, Toranganita, for all the work that you do. We really acknowledge the knowledge and the sharing. Yeah, I think that's a really important criteria and quality of Simone Sebundende, his willingness to share what he knows. Did you also have a chance to go to the Fiji Museum?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so part of our research, usually when you do a film like this, and it's based on like an existing, a culture, you want to make sure you get things right. And so for me, when I put the story together, I knew that I had to get the Ndrua right. I had to get it correct. And so that was why Michael John and we went through a whole lot of photos online, looked at the photos of other drawers, and then I reached the point where like, okay, you can only look at photos so much. You have to see the real thing. So of course, big shout out to the Fiji Museum. They have a giant canoe or a ndrua in the museum. So him and I made a special field trip. We went there, asked for like someone to help us to like point out stuff and all. And so we were lucky to have Jeremiah Vesa to be our guide. And so he was the one who took us around. We took photos and asked like, what's this little piece on the boat? And it's like, oh, I explained this and that, give the backstory. What's this, how do they pull the thing? He said, they pull the rope and it pulls the sail this way. So he was very helpful and instrumental in helping us understand and wrap our brains around what the Ndrua is and how it works, and also its cultural significance. So the museum and Jeremiah Vesa were big help in getting this film made.
Wonderful. Yeah, Vinaka vakalevu. I'm going through some of the pictures that you have on your page. And there's one which I really like because you've mentioned Simone Sebundrendre. So for those of you who are listening in today, if you haven't followed his Facebook page, I love this picture because it really shows what you just talked about your ability to be actually physically in the museum. So for those of you who've been to the Fiji Museum, yeah, you'll see the Ndrua here. Was this the moment that you were there with Simeone, Sebundrendre Meli?
So that was an interview we actually did after the film was made. We did this interview because we were going to have a screening of Solimbola here at the Moda Cinemas. And so because we're having the screening, I thought it was only right to have Mr. Sevendrendre speak on the cultural significance and the traditional importance of both Ndrua and the human sacrifices, and put into a local cultural context. But unfortunately, he was busy. He was actually out in Sydney, Australia, I think at the Australian Museum at that time. So I asked if we could do an interview before he went. And so we asked for permission from the Fiji Museum, and they granted it. Shout out to the Fiji Museum for that. Thank you very much. And they allowed us permission to shoot the interview in front of the very drawer that we use as reference. And that was done earlier this year. And so that interview is actually online. So for those of you who want to watch an interview and watch like sort of like a deep dive into the cultural context, ways and traditions of the importance of both Ndroa as well as why Fijians had human sacrifices and how it related to their cultural lifestyle, feel free to check out that video. It's linked on the any of the Solimbula social media pages.
Vinaka vakalevu. And looking at the Ndroa and also those images that we've seen before, what motivated you to begin this this journey to learn more about what was Fiji like back in the day?
So fun fact, the story for Solimbula started out from this idea of this just this image of this girl recording a traditional Fijian ceremony on her phone and looking bored. Just that it's just a picture that set in my brain, and it made me think, like, why would she be bored? And it's she's watching like a cool traditional ceremony, like, why is she looking bored? And then the idea sort of like grew out from that picture. She's obviously bored because she's seen a million of these, and she's using her phone to stream it to her friends to say, hey, this is where I'm at, check it out. And so this idea of a culture and technology and how they clash, and with you mix in like modern day living, and you have this weird mix of like how we Fijians are living today. And so from that sort of like from that idea and that thought process, the story of Solimbula slowly fleshed its way out to the point where like she's actually recording this human sacrifice ceremony and looking bored. And the fact that she's looking bored at this such grand ceremony, it meant that in that world, in her world, that version of Fiji, it was a normal everyday thing. And so I liked that idea of how something so grand and amazing and scary and frightful could be reduced to being to such a trivial thing by a teenager, and just recording on the phone. So there are like lots of themes and interesting ideas that sort of grew out from that. But that's how Solimbula sort of became.
Wow, that's amazing. And you did the fundraising, and you did everything you wanted. How did it feel for you when you actually finally saw the fulfillment of what you wanted to achieve?
First of all, I was like, I don't have this many friends to give this much this amount of money. I don't have a lot of friends on Facebook, so I was like, who are these people? Where are they coming from? How? And the fact that they there's definitely strangers, but they're throwing money at a project that they had faith that I believed in, and they had faith that I could make it work. It was a very unusual feeling. It was something I was still getting used to about how full strangers can believe and invest in your work. And so it made me both very humble, for one, and also very nervous, secondly, because I was playing with money that wasn't technically mine, even though they had donated it. Technically, I could just take the money and go to Vegas for like 2 days. But the fact that they believed in me enough to put together a project and put together a crew to make sure to get this film done was very humbling. And so it really pushed me to make sure that we need to get this done, and we need to make it, bring it up to a level of quality that satisfied not only the backers, but when we put this film online and we screen it abroad, we can be proud of it. We can take a look at it and say, look, this is us, this is Fiji. This represents us to a point, to a level that we are comfortable with. And so it's been a very humbling journey thus far.
Wow, man! Congratulations from all of us, Meli. When we saw that you were able to, reach the target that you wanted, yeah, we that's just evident, that people believe in you and your team, and we know that you're going to do a wonderful job, and you did it. You went to these film festivals, and you went to the one in New Zealand. Can you tell us what it was like being among these filmmakers? Some of them are well known as well.
Oh yeah. There was a famous Maori film actress. Her film was I forgot her name, and she was actually the actress who starred in Wilson Hernico's film The Land Has Eyes. She was
Ah,
the original lady who I think who sort of birthed Rotuma, or some, if I understood the legend right. But she was in that film, and she was there at the film festival, and she was there at the screenings of all the short films for that day, and mine included. And so the fact that she got to see my film, with other gang, I was like, Brazilian Mandua, like, whoa, big famous Hollywood
yeah.
star, and she's here. And so, well, for me in general, it was my first experience. It was a very eye-opening experience, very inspiring, to be, with other, and like, well, it was really nice. Everyone was really nice. They're like, who are you? Where you from? Fiji. Oh, okay. What's your film? Okay, I'll try to see it. That was basically what everyone, when I
Wow.
met people, that was the general thing that they'd say. Who are you? Where you from?
Yeah.
What's your film? I'll try and see it. And people would try and see it. And there was film just going all of that week, me included. I tried to see as much films as possible, but there's so many. There's so many. So you had to pick and choose. But just being in that area with other Pacific Islanders, I think it was really inspiring for me as a new filmmaker, and especially Pacific filmmaker, to be surrounded by other Pacific Island gang and to watch some of their stories that are similar to ours in Fiji, and to hear, the language, and you hear like, Samoan being spoken, Maori. It's really like comforting. Like, I'm really glad that my first film festival experience was a Pacific Film Festival. Like now, if I happen to go to another one, I'll be like, yeah, I've had experience, but like to have the Pacific Film Festival, Maryland, my first, was very culturally nourished. It was very emotionally nourishing, and so shout out to Maryland for accepting my film and having it there. Been very supportive.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Kia ora. Thank you so much for them for acknowledging, the work that
Mm.
you did. And it's Rina Owen, is that the one, eh?
Yes, that's
The
her.
the
That's her.
actress. Yay.
Her
Wow, that's
film,
amazing.
Fina. Her film Fina was screening the film debut, and so
Wow.
yeah, when I saw, I want to, of course, everyone, when you see someone famous that you adore, you want to go and shake their hand. But me, I was like, oh, I'm shy. I just leave her be, because she was saying hi to everyone as she walked in. I was just like, no, I just hang out at the back. One day I'll get a photo with her, I promise.
One day, one day, one day. Wow, you're very brave, and yeah, we just love the way you let your dream come alive. And even though it's not an easy journey, you have to find the finance to create it, and you did it. You put together a team, which I think is just amazing, because they are so highly qualified in their own field, and wonderful. Thank you so much, Meli, for doing that, because that's a huge acknowledgement, for them, that you were able to shoulder tap them and invite them to join you. So that's wonderful. And again, as locals,
Mm.
man, for us to acknowledge our own talent within Fiji. Wow, what more can we say? That now we can confirm we do have talent in Fiji, and let's support them, let's back them up. And so, Vinaka vakalevu, Meli, for doing the Solimbula. Now you have another project and another film, and I'll let you explain to the audience what is this new film that you have in mind.
Sure. So after Solimbula, I actually started to make the switch to live action filmmaking. And I dipped my toes in by making a comedy, well, yeah, somewhat comedy, goofy comedy called Chone Weiss, which is about I don't know if you've seen it, Doctor, but it's kind of a silly movie about a guy who had his flip-flop stolen, and so he challenge other gang who stole it and to get his people back. And he challenged with grog, drinking cover. So that movie was that short film was made with a financial backing of Lamikava.
Nice.
So shout out to Lamikava who paid for the production. I was really thankful that they were brave enough to go with this silly vision, but it worked out great. And so after I made China Wise, then that's when I was like, okay, I have a little bit of experience in making a live action film. So the next step would be so I've had this story on Daunitukutuku. I've had this script for quite a while. In fact, I had this story before Solimbula. And I was actually working with Master Simi. We were going back and forth about the story because he would advise me about certain things. But I've had this story all the way back in 2015 was when I was writing the story. And so now it is in a shape where I believe that we can film it. And so at this stage, I've put together a cast and crew. The crew, we're fully staffed, but the cast, we're still looking around for people. But while we're looking around for people, because this is a live action short film, and we're actually going to be shooting on location. There's 2 locations we're looking at. The first is we're going to shoot out in the jungle. And the second is we want to look at a village, traditional village. So sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The story of Daunitukutuku, it takes place in 1800s Fiji. So the story is about this young Fijian woman named Kaliti, and her village is about to come under attack from invading forces. And so she is sent by her mother to go and sort out help from the neighboring village. And when she does that, so the story takes place of her finding out that her village is going to come under attack. She then is sent by her mother, who's the chief, to go to the next village and get more allies to help defend the village. And so when she leaves, she doesn't know that her brother is the one who's kind of planning against her. And so then he sets out to try and stop her. And so at the end of the film, there'll be this, it'll come culminating to this fight. So they'll fight in the jungle to try, and they're fighting for the survival of her home. And so that's now Daunitukutuku, the messenger in Fijian. So she's the messenger. So with this film, I wanted to, and that's the main girl, Giovanna Varrea. When I was putting together the cast for this film, I wanted a gang who can fight, and who can do fight choreography. And when you think about it, fight choreography in film is very similar to dance choreography. And so her name popped up, and she's from the VO dance group. And so I checked in with her. Hey, would you be interested in starring in this film where you get to beat up people? And it's like, yeah, I want to fight. I was like, oh, okay, set. So, so she's been cast as the main character for Daunitukutuku, and so there's her, Giovanna Varre. So her dad is from Noatau Rutuma, and her mom is from Yaloku Ba. So she works as a dance teacher and choreographer, and she's very well versed in dancing. And so we had a chat, and so I said, dancing and fighting on film is the same thing. You just timing your movement and all. And so she's like all ready and up for it. And so for the bad guy, I've cast this fella Epi Vuruna. So this fella he's a up and coming filmmaker of his own. He's made short films with his uncle, and they've both made short films and put it on YouTube and Facebook. So he himself he's a great filmmaker, but he's also a funny actor. So I said, hey, you want to play one bad fella? And the fella said, mate. I said, set, let's go. So he read the script. He's really excited. And so these guys, there's going to be other people to cast for the show, but for now, we've got the main characters. They're the protagonist and the antagonist.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So would you be looking for other actors and actresses? So I think for our listeners, Vinaka, to our brothers and sisters here from America, there's a few of you watching, also some from New Zealand and Australia. Yeah, definitely Meli. Tikivindra here, Meli just saying it's very creative what you've just shared with us. And now we've got the main actress and the main actor, and I'm sure there's some that are listening in that know many actors and actresses out there in the community. Would you be doing a call out for these amazing people?
We have a few more parts that we'd like to look to cast. One, two, three parts, three more parts to cast. And then so definitely we'll do a call out for additional actors. For now, I'm sort of like also sending out feelers and asking around. I won't name any names, but right now I'm talking to one person in particular. I'm very like fingers crossed that if they say yes, it'll be like really cool for them to come into the film. But for now, it's more of like just asking around, and if we can't find someone, then it will definitely put the call out.
Ah. That's exciting, and I'm really happy you're working with Wo. So shout out to Sachiko and Eddie for the Wo Dance School, Wo Dance Group. Again, it's a place where they've got the dance school, and it's amazing that some of their dancers are now moving into acting, into filmmaking, supporting filmmakers like you.
I should
That's
say something.
mm-hmm.
Vo actually has come on as a sort of like a production partner. They have volunteered some of their talent to be part of not only the cast with Giovanna, but also as some of the production crew. So we actually have some of the crew from Vo working on this production. So that's who's this? Edwin. He's the costume designer. Um, yeah, and I think we've got this guy who does the choreographies to it. He's also going to be the fight choreographer. And so we're working closely together, and I'm really happy that I can have a sort of like a source of like professional gang, local and young and ready to go to pull from, and they're also like raring to go with the production as well. So the very cool thing that I'm happy to say is that they will be covered, their pay will be covered by Vo. So the production doesn't have to pay them, and it's really helpful. It's actually kind of brought our budget down by a bit. So I'm very grateful and thankful to Vo for offering to volunteer their talent for this production. And they're also excited to learn film production aspects of different aspects of film production. So it's a win-win for the both of us.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Mel. Well, Willem Fong has suggested if there's any role that would suit me, I can join your team.
Oh, if we have the money to fly you over, one day, Doctor, we'll have the budget to fly you over from Hawaii and book you your own private jet. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Vinaka. Vinaka, William Fong, for your suggestion. But it's just, really amazing to see that, even though, you have the main actors and the main actress in this case, there's other areas as well, like costume designing and other areas that I know some parents that are listening in can start to, encourage their children, to move into these kind of fields. I think this story, our Talanoa tonight will, benefit a lot of people. And even though we are here for your Daunitukutuku film, but thank you, Meli, for, inspiring, many up and coming filmmakers too. Mm.
I should say, as an aside to that, is that while there's a lot of people who say I want to be an artist, I think just as important role that isn't talked about much is the jobs that support artists, and these are production roles. So I think not a lot of people say, I want to go into a production role that supports artists, like like a cameraman or like a costume designer. But these are all equally valid and equally artistic roles that go a long way with helping to support and ensure that the vision gets made. So I'd like to give a little shout out to highlight the importance of those other roles that support the art itself, not just the artists themselves. Hair and makeup, lighting, all those technical
Wow.
positions. And I'm just talking about film. If you're talking about like dance, there's like stage technician, electricians, all those things, they all equally important to work to come together to ensure that, you know, something cool gets made. And so I'd like to shout out those guys as well.
Meli. Thank you for your story and, you know, inspiring, you know, many people as well, especially our young ones, wanting to go into this field, but they're kind of not sure. But if they hear your story and to see someone in real life doing what they, you know, dreaming to do, it's amazing. You know, now you are the role model in your team as well. They've got somebody to go to. Vinaka vakalevu for, you know, for encouraging that. Now, on this poster that we're looking at, you've got the Kickstarter again for this film. What would you like to tell our listeners and our viewers about the support you need to make Daunitukutuku come to reality?
So once again, with our hats in our hands, we were coming to the public and we're asking Big Kerekere if you can help us help fund this short film production to get it made. The budget's actually kind of a bit similar to Solimbula, but it's funny because the budget's slightly different in that now we're actually paying for cast and we're paying for these things that we didn't encounter when you're doing animation. We have to go out into the village, we have to travel, and we have to pay for accommodation and food. And so there's a whole lot of other expenses that actually kind of make the budget go up. And so it's quite a tricky endeavor, but like for me personally, I've worked with a whole lot of gang that are in the crew, and I'm pretty sure that we can get this made. And
Nice.
so I would like to ask or anyone who's interested in seeing Fijian culture depicted on screen, anyone who's interested in supporting the arts in Fiji, anyone who's interested in seeing women kick ass with the fighting, that's definitely in the cards. Anyone who's interested in seeing a Fiji in the 1800s, that one's very interesting because I don't think we have enough stories that showcase that kind of stuff visually on screen. If any of these aspects of the story or the production interests you, then I would like to invite you to please toss a coin to your filmmaker, so to speak, at our Kickstarter, and any amount that you give will help and go a long way to making sure that we hit our fundraising goal. And if you can't donate financially, that's okay. Please share it with your friends and family, because if you share it, the chances are someone in your circle will donate towards the production. But by donating to this production, you ensure that you can keep filmmaking in Fiji alive and keep it going. And so whatever you donate, whether you donate or whether you share, we're eternally grateful for your help.
Yes, and people can donate through the Kickstarter page. How will you share it with us, Meli?
So I can give the link in chat. I don't know if you can share it, but that's the link to the Kickstarter.
Okay.
But also you can visit any of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and you just search Daunitukutuku, which is the spellings on screen, Daunitukutuku. I could have gone with like something a bit more English, like The Messenger, but I'm like, come on, man, we're telling Fijian stories here. We gotta have the Fijian in the title, eh?
I was so happy to see that, Nakameli.
There was this conversation we had on Twitter a few months back about. I told this anecdote about Solimbola, and when I started it, I was like, I just want to make a film for Fijians by Fijians, just that. At the end of the production, when it was screening, I sent a link to one of my friends, and he shared it with a friend overseas, and their feedback was like, hey, the part where the hand is with a stick and it's hitting something, maybe you could explain what that is. And I was like, oh yeah, I could. Then I said, wait a minute, I'm making this film, it's a Fijian film by Fijians for Fijians first, and
Yes.
I don't want to waste time explaining each and every detail for people who aren't Fijians, and so like for me, I personally just want to get our tradition culture right and get it on screen. If you don't understand, that's okay. if you want, you can, maybe research it. But for me, I want to make sure that I don't waste any time. I just want to get the Fijian story out and in front of our Fijian audience. So it's the same thing with Daunitukutuku. I could have called it The Messenger, but I'm like, no, I'm telling a Fijian story. I want our Fijian gang to as soon as they see this, they're like, oh, this is a Fijian movie, not to be confused by any other English name. It's like they see in Daunitukutuku, they're like, okay, we're in for a Fijian story. We're in for a Fijian ride. And so I want to ensure that whatever stories I tell, they are authentic. The voice is authentic to the culture that's being depicted on screen, which in this case is Fijians.
Wow. It's a Vinaka Meli for showcasing our stories, our language, and even this image here. You brought in Rotuma and Ba. Giovanna is Vasu to Yaloku in Ba. So for those of you who are listening in who are from the province of Ba, you should be very proud that we have your Vasu right here, Giovanna Varrea, who is an amazing dancer in her own right. So Vinaka vakalevu to Sachiko and Eddie Soro for Vote Dance for empowering a lot of our young people who are just enjoying this time of their life in the field of the arts. And it's great that you are collaborating with them, Meli. So was it an easy way for you, or the idea came to you that you just go to Vo, or was there other places that you were thinking about, Meli?
Oh, well, so I work closely with Lysia Thundave or Dave Lavaki. For those of you listening, this Mr. Green. So he's the rapper. He does video production, so I work with him a lot for my work. And when I was discussing with him about the story and like trying to put together a crew or finding even like a cast, he's like, why don't you check out those Vogang? They're very open with like collaborating with on artistic productions. I'm sure they'd love to support you. And so Dave was the one who pointed me to Vogue because he has a good working relationship with them. And so I was like, hey, you sure? I mean, I don't know anyone there or whatever. But I was like, no, they said, man, just go and explain the project and then I'm sure they'll be on board. So yeah, Dave and I actually drove down a few months, sorry, what was it, last month? To go and pitch this to Vogue, and they were 110% on board. And that's where we also took the photos for that cool poster that you see there. And so yeah, they were straight away. They were like, "This is awesome. How can we help support it anyway?" And I was like, "Can I borrow your costume gang and your hand makeup gang and your dance choreographer who can do fight choreography as well?" So they were all on board.
Totoka saranga, man, look at that. It's really great to see the spirit of Sole Solevaki. That's something that is really unique for us. Is it okay? We do things together. We always work together to complete a task. Even like building the Wanga Bakabiti, Tara, Tanawanga, Taravale, building Mbure Bakabiti. We always do things together. So it's really nice that we bring the concept of Sole Solevaki into this space of filmmaking. And that's just wonderful to see. So to those of you who are listening in, Mary Pickering, Vinaka, Tumbui Grace, and all of you who are watching from within Fiji and all over the world, please let's support Meli Tuqota and his amazing team. As he humbly said, any sangamoli, any whatever contribution you can give, that's appreciated. But also, if you cannot contribute financially, you can share the link. So I'll definitely put the link onto this live after our Talanoa, so that the ones who are listening in and those who will watch the repeat of the Talanoa can be able to follow the link. And also the link is on your website too, Meli?
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know if it's on my website. I know it's everywhere on my social media, but I should probably check that. Oh,
Okay.
That's really terrible. If I had a comms person, they'd be smacking me right now. I don't.
But I'm sure it'll pop up there, in the next 24 hours. So
definitely.
Yes. So for those of
I
you
just want
who
to
are
say
listening,
something.
Sure, go for it.
Just to highlight the Kickstarter. With the Kickstarter, the cool thing about Kickstarter is that it's not necessarily a straight donation where you just give the money and that's it. There's actually rewards. So if you donate a certain amount, you're actually eligible for a certain reward. So say for example, if you donate $25, which is our most popular donation tier, you will actually receive a private link to the film online. You'll have your name in the credits. The Daunitukutuku public social media accounts will thank you, and just additional extra stuff. So the more you donate, the more the rewards you'll get from the Kickstarter. And so that was the same for Solimbula, where people donated certain amounts, they actually received rewards. And so one of the cool rewards we had was a PDF production of the Solimbula film. So it had like all the drawings, the behind the scenes, the interviews, all the information about the production. So for those of you who are interested in film production, there's a tier there that actually you donate a certain amount, you get not only all those things, the private link to the film, your name in the credits, but you also get the script, you also get the storyboards, and there's also a production booklet where we'll put together all the photos, all the behind the scenes, the stories of all what we went through to get this film made. So it's not just a straight donation, you're going to get some cool stuff as well. And our highest donation tier, which is $1,000, you will actually receive a associate producer credit. As in, like in the film credits, you'll be listed as associate producer. And we actually have one backer already at the moment. I won't say their name unless they want it, but like there's already one person who's backed at the 1,000 tier. So huge shout out to that person. You know who you are.
Wow, Totoka vakauti, man, Meli. Your story, it's gonna inspire, a lot of young ones, but also some older ones who are watching too. Your journey is really reminding us to value, our stories and to value our traditional wisdom. Of our ancestors, they provided this wisdom for our benefit for today, and it's so nice that you can be able to see it on screen. So now we're not just going to the museum or reading a book, but you can see the stories come alive in front of you, and you're making it really relevant for this generation, and also for this time that we're living in. So on behalf of everyone that are listening in today, we just want to wish you all the very best. And we know you did so well for Solimbula, and definitely the Daunitukutuku will definitely be a hit. And with all your collaboration and the team that you have and the backers that are already coming forward, that's really, really positive and uplifting. Yeah. So maybe I'll pass it back to you, Meli, for any other final words you want to share to our viewers, or also to acknowledge the team that you're currently working with, and just inspire so many to get into Kickstarter and contribute.
Vinaka, well, for a full list of the cast and crew, if you go to the Kickstarter page, it'll list it all out. All the local, and once again, all the local gang who have the full expertise to make this a reality. Feel free you can go through the list there of the crew on the Kickstarter page. So to sign off, one of the things that I was thinking about with regards to culture. So for me personally, part of the reason why I'm doing this is for me not only to tell Fijian stories, but I actually want to learn about the culture as well while I'm doing this creative stuff. And at the same time, while I'm learning it, whatever I learn, I put it into the film. And so not only is this just an endeavor to make Fijian stories, but it's also an opportunity for both me and people who either part of production or who view the end product learn additional aspects of our culture. A while back, I made a 4-part interview podcast series with Mr. Seven Drendre called Fiji BC. I don't know if you've seen that, where him and we sit down and it was me kind of being selfish, wanting to learn about Fijian culture, but at the same time, I recorded it and I want to share it as well. So this journey for me has been a journey of traditional discovery, and at the same time, wanting and trying and working towards sharing as much as I learn, as much as possible, with both gang here in Fiji who are like me, who are kind of like still starting from scratch and learning their culture, as well as the gang overseas who are maybe they have like the links to people that they could ask severed, and so they don't have an opportunity to learn more about who we are as a people. And so this is sort of my I was gonna say this is my gift, saying, hey, this is my I guess sort of like a thing that I make and share to ensure that I can bring all of us gang who are in the similar boat as me on the same page. And I like what is being done right now in way of how our culture is being shared, because not only me, my personal endeavors or my artistic endeavors to make this a film, but there are other people out there who are taking aspects of the culture and sort of like reworking it into a way that sort of fits these new mediums that we have. So, for example, there's a rapper who's a local rapper who's rapping only in Fijian, and that the aspect of hip hop culture, but then using it as a vehicle to deliver really scintillating Fijian lyrics. That's for him. That's like, at least for me, how I view it is one aspect of our culture, sort of like given new legs and given new life. The gift of how we really, the gift of the gab. And so these different aspects, and so you've got also the dance, you've also got the artistic aspect. You've got young people on Instagram who are drawing, drawing Fijian culture and putting in different ways or doing their own interpretations and their own spin. I'm hoping that this is sort of like we're sort of at this stage where Fijians, both locally and overseas, are taking a look at what we are, who we are as people, and sort of like applying it to themselves, and then seeing like how it makes you, how it defines you as a person in where you are, both locally, but also like within the text, within the context of society, and what we can do to ensure that our culture sort of like lives on. And so these various ways in which we're doing these cool things to make cool stuff within our culture, I think goes a long way into ensuring that our culture not only stays alive, but it stays relevant, which is very important. It's not so much just something we learn just because, but it's something that we learn because it's a part of us, and because it inspires us, and informs our actions going into the future as either individuals, but more importantly as people, as Fijians in Itoke. So keep doing what you're doing, you gang.
Man, Vinaka vakalevu. Man, you've really inspired so many of us, and the comments coming through. There's a great support for the work that you do, and I know there's a lot of supporters out there. Go on our website na www.kickstarter.com, and nag-imbit kayo na page na link muni lakokina sa tusar tungango na keni tuktuku kedi sa ngwana sende rato na numutsiku merto na rawata bitu nondolu ronan rawasang vulkatol yang go sa rato rawata rango indulun dolu ronan rawasang vulkarwa sa ando na tosili wemel sa tikura sa lorito ngo sa tin sa rato solira mundo beir kedi na sa solimai binakabali na yalo binakabali na nomuni bitukoni beleta na dorobongo na dakadak sarva kuko kirto na nona timi mena dakabinaka na yalo ngo na Daunitukutuku. So Meli, apart from Daunitukutuku, what else is up your sleeve in terms of your vision for the future in filmmaking?
Wow. Well, I've actually got several other projects that I'm working on the side as well. I'm actually working with Dave on a documentary about Fiji politics, which is very interesting. I think it's probably again I'm not sure, but it's probably another Fiji's first documentary about Fiji politics. So we're in the end stages now of like editing and stuff, but once we get closer to finishing, we'll definitely release a trailer and more information about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that interesting doco where we took a deep dive into last year's elections, and sort of, well, the documentary is about him and I learning about Fiji politics, because we don't know much about Fiji politics. So it was a exercise and excuse to dive into the weird, wonderful, very noisy, very sometimes chaotic scene, the political scene. So that's that they'll be coming probably end of this year or beginning of next year. I'm also working on there's a performance production company in Australia, Melbourne, that have brought me on board to work on a documentary for two of their performers. And it's in they're Fijian, so they're Fijian. They're born and raised in Australia, but they still maintain their cultural links with Fiji. And so that's a sort of production that's kind of really early in production. But once we have more details, I'll definitely post and share that. So there's a lot of things happening right now, but the important thing is that they're all Fijian things, so that's really exciting.
Totoka. Vinaka bali besar Meli Tuqota, dorbo Nagasauva, the Cauravou vasu ni Tonga Matanisiga. Bikim ni nagayado berti kumai, marotak ni yado ramay o Meli. May talanoa tu weekend na singo binaka ni kuwa. Ningwale na Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channel, chuk talaga na website na tungota.com kaya baka ningole bina na website sa tukere kina na itukutukere ni kerangan rebi na bibuke bailabo na yaloyalo tarabo ando ni tukutuku na marotak na dorbongo ni sa matataki wabo kutu na bese burubura na buku ngani yaloyalo ya pala sa kete kubuti kumengo kwa katiko kwa singai dabu yaba tiko ya darani karani tukuno kwa dabu yaba ya na lebu ni kasabada kapatiko kwa sa sibita sar na dabu yaba sa chuk sariliu the marotak sar valeu Meli. We wish you all the very best with you and your amazing team. And in the future, as you said, if you want to share with our listeners on my program any latest from your project, please just come, message me and let me know, and I'll be happy to host you back here on this Talanoa program. Meli, Vinaka, anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I want to say a big Vinaka vakalevu to you for having me on your show. It's always fun and always exciting when and I'm saying always like I've been here plenty times. Saying, hey, this is just my second time, but it's always a great time when I sit down and have a chat with you, because you're so insightful about your takes on whatever I say. So I feel a whole lot more smarter when after you speak after me, because I'm like, oh yes, I meant to say that, yes, in that way. So thank you for making me look good, Dr. T. But thank you for having me on the show, and shout out to all those gang watching. Thank you for dropping by. Naka.
All right. So, Sarah. All the very best, Meli, and we'll keep in touch.
Sep, Naka. Thank you.
Okay. Naka, Manda. Naka, Vinaka vakalevu, vikim ni na varong tikumai, me kasatuko ni Meli, babili vinaka chuku vikim ni kede na siamu tikumai. Na kai vinaka ni kua, kai vichuku ni singatambu, sa bola ngona bimama ni viwa, may viti, don boli vinaka may Amerika, boli vinaka may Ribuan Romo, boli vinaka tumbui Grace, nitaki ni na bito ko ni mai, wana dorobo ni Nagasauva, me Cakaudrove, Meli Tuqota, vasu ni Tonga Matanisiga, katiko boli ngoma viti, boli me Suva Grammar School. So to all the Suva Grammar School old scholars, please come along and support Meli Tuqota and his amazing team in making sure that the Daunitukutuku film, gets off the ground and we can be able to see it in the big screen, and it can be touring as well, just like the first film, the Solimbula. Vinaka Sara, Osava Kumadhan Vikim Niket Me Hawaii, Nimode Mata.